So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sony NEX-C3. It's supposed to be an entry-level mid-tier mirrorless camera from Sony from way back in 2010. It's an interesting looking device, and the most obvious characteristic, or rather benefit, of this camera is its pocketability, because it's really small in the hand, and while it's made to be very versatile and easy to handle, and this will be obvious in the menu as well. But for now, let's look at the construction of the camera itself, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to purchase this camera. So I won the auction on eBay with this camera and a Sony E-mount 16mm lens, the pancake one. I already sold the lens, and I figured I might as well delve into this Sony E-mount ecosystem, or rather the lens models. So over the months I have had a bunch of lenses for the Sony E-mount system, and I have two of them left, but I'll speak about them in a moment. Now back to the camera. This thing with the lens cost me about $160, $165, including shipping and VAT, which is not exactly a low number, but overall I managed to get out of this deal very well. I have sold the lens for $110, so as it stands, this camera right here owes me about $55. And what I plan to do with it is sell it on with a bit of a loss, or rather a small profit added to it, but overall I don't plan to make all that much money on this camera itself, due to several reasons. First of all, this is a Japanese only model, so I can't set the menu to anything other than Japanese, which is it's sort of disappointing. And also, because of its pink hue, this pink color, honestly I like it a lot, but it might not be to everybody's taste, so this means that the market is not so open to this type of niche camera. Now, another reason for a low price for this type of camera is the menu itself. I'm just gonna quickly show it to you. So it's more of a type of mobile phone menu, considering this came out in the golden age of smartphones, when smartphones really were taking off and getting the market flooded with camera features, meaning that traditional camera manufacturers had to fight back with everything they had. So Sony figured that they should make a more pocketable and a more easy to use camera, which makes sense. And this translates in an interface that it's not so much concentrating on facts, but rather on icons, and you get the idea. If you switch back to the menu, you can see a lot of icons, a lot of animation, and even the modes of themselves are not accessible via a physical wheel here on top, but rather you just switch through the modes like you would in a smartphone. So this is a pretty niche camera in today's market, considering this is a 15-year-old design. Honestly, it's not looking so great in 2025. Let me just try to mount lens here. I'm always used to the micro four thirds way of mounting lenses, but here we go. So I have this Sony 18 to 55 lens, which is rather dusty, as you can see here, and it has a little bit of hazing inside, but I'll just wipe off the exterior dust, and then switch to the to taking one photo. Let me just switch on to a simpler mode. I would say intelligent auto is the one to get in order to just get a picture. As you can see, there's the macro sign here, and I believe this is an automatic feature of the camera. It detects the plane of vision and the distance to the subject, so it should focus just fine. And as you can see, the results are rather good. Let me just check if I have an SD card installed here, which I don't know where it is. Yeah, it's here. No, I do not. So let me just get back. I will share a couple of pictures with you and try to show you what this camera can do, but overall the picture quality is satisfactory in 2025, if not great. Okay, so these are the sample pictures that I have taken with the Sony NEX-C3 camera, along with the 18 to 55 zoom kit lens. Now, the pictures were taken in intelligent auto, meaning I didn't actually fiddle around with the settings of the camera, and as you can see, the results are rather disappointing. First thing you will notice, these pictures have a lot of burnt in light to them. Of course, I have given the camera a lot to work with, since these pictures have been taken at the first break of dawn. Still, it's an autumn sunrise, and it should have been able to handle the light better, at least in my humble opinion. Now, the details of the pictures are not that great, and I'm pretty certain a modern camera phone would shame these results after all. I will just switch to them, and you will see something interesting in the 18mm wide depth of field. The details are not as sharp, and probably the autofocus didn't work as fine as it should have. But in the 55mm position, meaning zooming in, the details are much crisper and the pictures are much better. It's obvious any smartphone could wipe the floor with this camera in 2025, but I guess it's all about the feel, the construction, the inherent satisfaction of using a mechanical device, or let's say at least a device that presents itself as being a niche market, a specialized tool. A big bonus here is the tilting screen, which by the way has great colors, and it was a huge plus for 2020. For 2010, considering the size of this camera, to have a swiveling, or rather a tilting screen, was a huge positive way back then. And if you compare it to a modern smartphone in terms of dimensions, if you disregard the thickness, the girth of the device itself, the camera simply is minute in dimension compared to a modern smartphone. Even the weight of it is pretty similar actually, so it could be argued that this camera still makes sense in 2025. Now obviously this has an E-mount, but it doesn't offer nearly anywhere close to the features that modern Sony cameras offer in 2025, meaning you don't even get 4K shooting modes, film modes that is, you only get an HD resolution. There's a 16.2 megapixel sensor, but as we all know today, it's not only about the sensor size and the pixel density, things are rather more complex than that. Now, in terms of hardware, you have an SD card slot here. Interestingly enough, this camera doesn't feature the proprietary Sony cards of yore, which were, I don't know, they had some sort of name, but they were thinner, and well, this one sports a classic SD card slot. The battery is right here, and well, interestingly, let me just turn it off to show this to you. This seems to be the original battery, and it holds its power quite well. You can see here the battery specifications. Let me just focus right on this information. So what are the highlights of this camera? Well, it's pocketable, easy to maneuver, it's very ergonomic. I especially like this grip area here. It has this nice texture, it's pleasant to the touch, and it's easy to, well, the theory was that you can easily work it with one hand. I don't know if that's the case, because I didn't really get to operate this camera that much. As a downside to this particular camera and this example specifically, you have this rather strange finish on the LCD screen. The LCD screen is very nice and has a great resolution, but you can see the foil on top, the top of the screen, which is, by the way, a touch screen. The top of the screen really is deteriorating, and this is due to age and is not really accident related in any way, shape or form. On top here you have a slot for the flash, which I have, and I will show you how it is mounted on the camera itself. So this is the actual flash, which interestingly enough is mounted here on top of the camera by connecting this into the camera slot, and then screwing in this small wheel here on top. It's a rather easy system to operate, but I do feel is a bit flimsy, and I think that by mistake you could actually damage it pretty easily. As you can see, the flash unit is actually pretty well scratched compared to the camera, which doesn't have any marks on top at all. So yeah, this is the camera. Now my plans with it was simple. I mainly purchased it because I knew I was going to get into some Sony lens, and I wanted to buy and sell Sony lenses as well, and I wanted to make sure they were fully functioning. So this camera, having an E-mount system, an E-mount basically, provided me with the means of testing multiple lenses, of which I might mention the Sony 55 to 210 millimeter zoom lens. For now, I'm left with these three lenses here, which are the Sony 18 to 55 OSS. This is a manual zoom lens. It is a kit lens and it doesn't really have a great aperture, but it's fine enough, I guess. And then I have here a macro lens, which is actually in great condition. It's almost brand new. And well, I was hoping to ship this one for quite a profit, but that didn't really turn to be the case. I'll touch up on that aspect later on in a future video. Now here I have a very interesting looking gadget. This is actually a fisheye adapter, meaning it gives you a very wide depth of field, and well, it's just a piece of glass, curved glass, which allows you to see a much bigger depth of field with a Sony lens. But I'll touch up on those aspects later on in a future video. Now, the plans with this camera is to sell it on, and I'm willing to take a loss with this camera and to sell it for actually for what I paid for it, but I did get a charger for it. I spent some €3 getting a charger, and well, I spent a few euros trying to promote the ad in a local website. So there is a bit of a loss for this camera, but I'm fairly confident I will get my money's worth back. And well, it was an interesting delve into the Sony ecosystem. I am selling this camera for about $75 to $80 or thereabouts, meaning I will get back my money's worth and make a small profit, considering I already sold the lens it came with and a bunch of other lenses from the Sony ecosystem. So thanks for watching, and I guess I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.